Well, certainly not the podcast I wanted to make and react to on this uh, Veterans Day weekend as the Bruins get upset 34-28 by the Arizona Wildcats as the Bruins end their winning streak at home. And before a game with all the marbles on the line, UCLA finds themselves losing their second game of the season. And all this talk, how we were trying to hype up the Bruins all week long with the college football playoff rankings, the fact that they needed to win and win this one big. Well, sometimes you look ahead to the opponent next week, and UCLA found themselves, they're looking ahead. The Bruins found themselves down 2 scores early, down, came back, tied it at 21, down 24-21, thought they had it in the bag 28-24, and the Bruins find themselves on the wrong end of this one. This is Locked On UCLA. Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer recapping this one on a quick, immediate reaction following. It's so crushing that we're gonna get kind of right to it here. It's so crushing that it's relationship stressing. You try to watch a movie with your girlfriend, maybe like I was. She gets mad at you because you're not watching the movie because the Bruins, who should have been up 3 scores, and no, not over that course of the game, should they have been up 3 scores, but 3 touchdown favorites, 3 score favorites, a game they should have won, and the Bruins lose. So not only you have an angry Zach, you have an angry girlfriend who's in the other room waiting for me to finish this podcast and go watch the movie. What's it called? The Book of Life. And what's the Book of Life? You win some, you lose some, and you fall down the other way. All the cynical Bruins fans will be sitting here saying, it was a matter of time, and they'll go next week and beat SC. That would be the most weird nonsense that UCLA could do, which is possibly very likely. It's likely that they could go do that. But after a performance like this, there's no need to talk about beating USC. UCLA found themselves just a very frustrating performance in a game where they get down big. They gave Arizona, as talked about during the week's podcast, that early lead. They came out and you didn't want to really get into shootout, and it wasn't a shootout. But ironically, against an Arizona team that gave up some of the most rushing yards, it was the first time the Bruins this season did not score 30 points or more for a Bruins team that had been scoring the football, doing everything right, getting past these opponents that they should and should by a couple scores. In the end, I spent all that time talking about how the Arizona State game would be a tough one. It was, only for UCLA to bring back shades of 2005 and lose as a near top 10 team to Arizona, this time at home, in very disappointing fashion. And that may blow attendance against the Trojans next week. But either way, UCLA still in contention for the Pac-12 title game. Pac-12, this is this is why the Pac-12 is coming to die, because when they needed it most, LSU, I guess I can't even say overrated, top 10 team, and LSU, 2-loss team ready to head the Bruins, somehow guts one out on the road against Arkansas. Oregon loses at home in a heartbreak to Washington, also making UCLA look worse and better in the same right. And then for the Bruins, they find themselves in a dogfight at home against Arizona with Jayden de Laura, who's the reigning Pac-12 freshman offensive player of the year, not even in Arizona uniform, funny enough. He goes and leads. As excited as he was on the sidelines watching the broadcast, he was up and down, jumping every which way for the Bruins to lose as UCLA. Man, oh man. Just sheer, utter heartbreak for UCLA. And to be quite honest, Arizona played a better game. They played to win the game, and UCLA tried their best. They went for it, had the field goal block. Zach Charbonnet went for 180 yards overall on the grounds and 3 touchdowns. The Bruins rushed for 220 yards on the grounds. DTR threw for over 240 yards in the air with 1 score. And yet they let Jayden de Laura get in the game, go for over 300 yards and 2 scores. And in the end, they lost the fumble. UCLA lost the turnover battle, had a field goal blocked. The special teams, which had been sometimes shaky at times, came down, got a field goal blocked. What happened? UCLA went down the field very quickly. We're within field goal range. And what happens? Well, obviously the game changes if that field goal is not blocked earlier, but special teams, a turnover, And a lot of their losses in the Chip Kelly era have been coming when UCLA loses in the turnover margin. So Arizona came out and had a well-played game for a team that gave up their yardage as expected on the ground to Zach Charbonnet. Now back in playing, but they limited DTR. Colson Yankoff, a couple of carries for 15 yards. And they did what they had to do to the Wildcats to really throw the Bruins off, who did not play a good game from start to finish. UCLA got their 3 sacks, tackles for loss, 5 of them, but it was Arizona. Look at these numbers: 3 sacks, 7 tackles for loss overall as a defense, stacking it up, holding the Bruins, and finding ways to force the negative plays, including a couple of those fourth down stops, which truly, in the end, made the difference in a game that was, neck and neck. They got the quick start, and what we've rarely seen this season was UCLA get outplayed in the fourth quarter of a game where they needed to have it. And Arizona came through, did what they needed to do, got down, and what we thought on 3rd and 18 was the sack where I could go back and watch the movie with my girlfriend, turn into the book of life, smack you in the face. He gets the 4th and 4, and Delora fires in the end zone. And much to the shock and much to the dismay of every Bruins fan, and to the joy of maybe every hater, Arizona scored late and put the Bruins on ice, crushing any college football playoff hopes, but still not crushing the Rose Bowl hopes for UCLA as they still try to build towards the end of this year. It's a disappointing one. Just a gut punch, absolutely, in the worst way. This is the comfort beanie for all the haters, for all the lovers. The comfort beanie. This is why we have it on today. And we need some love. And if they hate, well, we're going to blow it up in the chat because it's not going to be a good one today. UCLA once again loses this by a final of 34-28. They got down 2 scores after one. Were trailing into the half, had this tied going in the fourth, led this one in the fourth quarter, and practically let it slip away in a game at home that they had to have. In the end, the Pac-12 title hopes are not dead. They need to win, do the Bruins, and still need some help, which, it's not the worst of asking for help. Oregon beating Utah at home, and if the Bruins can beat USC at home, then they can still be on the road for a rematch in the Pac-12 title game. Either way, UCLA's got some things to clean up with Caleb Williams coming into town for the next UCLA SC game in the Rose Bowl. Frustrating as it is, you got to suck it up, take the licks, and figure it out. I know what we wanted with the predictions was UCLA going up big. They had to get respect, and well, I guess in the end, maybe the committee saw things that we were blind to, whether it be UCLA fans, myself, here's the podcast host, and the Bruins find themselves on the wrong foot. Again, the Bruins upsets. Charbonnet does his best. DTR tried to lead them down the field. All those shots in the end zone, so close. In the end, it's Arizona who upsets the Bruins in a heartbreaking one. In the meantime, just remind you about upside. Just know if you're thinking about upside, if there's been ways where inflation's been forcing us to cut back, whether it's driving less, dining out less, buying less from the grocery store, there's nothing fun about less. As you see, there's nothing fun about losing or having less fun when doing this podcast. You can start using Upside. It's an incredible app for anybody who buys groceries, gas, or dines out. To get started, download the free Upside app. Use the promo code LOCK to get $5 more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Again, download the free Upside app. Use the promo code LOCKED ON to get $5 or more cash back for your first purchase of $10 or more. Again, that's using the promo code LOCKED on the Upside app. Go use it today. You don't like inflation, and the inflation of heartbreak has certainly gone up in the gut. UCLA fans, despite the disappointing one, it's 8 clap time, baby. As I know you don't want to do it, but we still have to do it. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight for Locked On UCLA. Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer saying good night. We'll recap this one in full detail come the full reaction Monday. Give grades. Won't be pretty. And we'll lean up into that UCLA SC matchup next week. But in the meantime, Bruins get upset. This has been the quick reaction version of Locked On UCLA. Go Bruins.